to unleash your inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another hour. And I cannot wait to have a impactful and engaging conversation with all of you. And I cannot wait for you to meet my guest today. When we think of ourselves as Goldilocks community and we come here to meet and engage and discuss how to get it just right by unleashing our inner Goldilocks, we are talking about something very specific and very mindful. To me, Goldilocks symbolizes balance. And she, at a very young age, just like all of us, knew exactly how she wanted everything to be and how she could influence others to get what she wanted. She knew to make sure her porridge was not too hot, not too cold. She made sure the bed or the chair she sat on was not too hard, not too soft. Imagine a time where you knew how you wanted things, and somewhere along the way, all the social conditioning and everything that we have been taught, we have sometimes forgotten that important way of influencing others to get things accomplished exactly the way it's going to serve us best and it's going to resonate for the others. Research shows that we can each only influence 3 levels, just 3 levels from where we are. Imagine if I came from an extreme right end of any particular issue. I can only influence 3 levels towards the center. If I came from the extreme left end of that same issue, I can only influence 3 levels towards the center. But what if I stepped into the arena and looked at various perspectives and how that particular issue affected different people, not just from my perspective? Now, all of a sudden, I have a more holistic view of what that looks like. Imagine light, presence of light and the absence of light are the extremes, right? White and black. But if we lived in a black or white world, how boring would life be? I wouldn't see the beautiful blue my guest is wearing today and how it perfectly matches her background, right? You're going to see how beautiful this whole color scheme looks when she shows up here. Why would we want to lose that opportunity? Why would we want to live in a black or white world? And if that is what just the presence and absence of color in a continuum shows us, then imagine how colorful life could be if we saw each other's perspectives and we honored and respected each other's perspectives, even if it was not for us, right? Gray is not my color. Yellow might not be my color, but it is a beautiful color. And I love yellow flowers. I may never wear it. Right? So there are time and place for everything. By shutting down things that I can't relate to is actually forcing me not to thrive. What is success? Success is about influencing others and accomplishing results. And how can I influence others if I can't relate to them and I can't bring them to the table? So my very own prosperity is predicated on me being able to see multiple perspectives, getting centered and embracing and taking perspective, right? And when I come from that place of balance, naturally, I start building consensus for shared prosperity because it's no longer about me and me alone, because me alone doesn't make a whole market. Me alone doesn't make a stakeholder community. Imagine each of our purpose. Imagine your purpose. Even your purpose sits in the centeredness of what you love, what you're great at, and what the world needs. If you're doing what you love and you're great at it, but the world doesn't need it, you do not have a mechanism to drive your economic engine. You're not going to have a marketplace for your goods and ideas. And therefore, you're never going to be able to be economically successful. If you love what you do and the market needs it and you're not good at it, somebody else who's better at it is going to come and capture the market. If you're great at it and the world needs it, but you don't love it, then halfway through your career, you're going to look up and say, what am I doing? Why am I unhappy? Nothing is working for me. So many of us have this midlife career crisis that sometimes seeps into midlife life crisis, right? So we need to be mindful of, as early as we humanly possibly can, identify our purpose and then leverage that purpose to drive our economic engine. And in that process, build a network of inclusivity and build a network of mindfulness so that we can influence each other and lift each other up. And this Goldilocks community is a living example of how we do that. Week after week, folks show up, we talk, we solve, we take perspective. And then behind the scenes, we get together and we help each other solve their problems or their issues that they are trying to solve for their business, right? So that's exactly what we are talking about. We're going to live what we say. We're going to say what we're going to live. I want us to take 3 nuggets into the conversation with my guest today. One is the importance of human factor in any business. The human factor matters, and how we show up in our humanity is what's going to drive our business, because all our stakeholders are human beings. Martians are not coming, at least not yet. So we have to figure out a way to do this as a human society, as a human race. And research shows, the latest research shows that the #1 quality everybody is looking for, employers and employees are looking for, is kindness. Kindness in the workplace is #1 priority. And surprisingly, it took a virus to teach us that. So aim with purpose and follow through with kindness and grace. Things are going to happen. They're not going to go your way. It's never always going to go our way, but handling things with grace, never losing our kindness, and walking in our purpose are what's going to help us both individually, professionally, as well as a business. Because a business that is aligned around purpose can thrive, because everybody who's coming in to engage with the company is also aligning around that purpose. The second nugget I want us to take into the conversation is purpose is going to guide our strategy over time. So remember, time is a leveler. Wisely employ time to walk in your purpose, because good things are going to take time. Good things are going to take time to take shape. How many times have you been in business where an idea is shared, everybody agrees we're going to do this, and then people are upset that they didn't see results in 1 week? I always jokingly, but only partly jokingly, say, think about this. We just decided to get pregnant. We are not pregnant. You can't have the baby yet. We have to get pregnant. We have to carry the baby to term. And only after 9.5 months, you can have a baby. So nature is teaching us that we have to give time for our purpose to grow and for us to grow in our purpose. So take the time and allow time to shape us and shape our purpose. Third nugget I want us to take into the conversation is shape the path and create anew. Do you know that children who entered kindergarten this year, more than 70% of them are going to be in careers that have not been imagined today? So we as parents, we as adults in their lives cannot pigeonhole them into what they need to do. When they say, I don't know what I want to be, but I just want to have fun, encourage it, because we ourselves don't know. And as we come back from the pandemic, the workplace is not the same. I come from the world of finance. What people don't realize is we can create a bot, a robot, to do automated repetitive work for $12,000 to $15,000 US. That can work 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week, without sick time, without benefits, without anything, with consistency and reliability and no human error. So how many of us are preparing for a world where we're tech savvy and we're tech enabled, and the technology is going to drive the repetitive work, and we are bringing our intellectual property and our ideas to solve issues and manage the technology? So even as we go into the workplace today, we don't know what lies ahead. So what we need to do is bravely ride into the unknown. And we create a path for others to follow because we don't need to follow the path somebody else created. The world is changing. It's a tectonic shift. And the beauty of this is we get to create it the way we believe it ought to be. So come and join the conversation with the open mind that we each have the opportunity, and collectively we can create the world that we need to see in business, and how that happens is going to shape all our lives. And to have this very important, timely, and actually exciting conversation is Deb Creer. Deb, welcome to Unleashing a Goldilocks.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be on your program, Dr. Kaz, and thank you so much for inviting me to participate.
Oh, I am super excited. And Business Power Hour is going to be a conversation. And the reason I named it as Business Power Hour is that's what Deb does.
That's me.
Every week, yes. She works with C-suite executives to optimize the use of LinkedIn. She's also an unabashed connector with information, knowledge, and resources to help people become more successful in business and in life. She's a marketing professional, social media advisor, professional speaker, and trainer. Since 2011, Deb has hosted the Business Power Hour and loves talking with her guests about a variety of business topics. Deb is president of Wise Women Communications LLC, a full-service marketing firm. She has an MS in Communications Management and an MBA in Business Management. She's also a survivor of stage 4 breast cancer and a true warrior. And it is my personal pleasure and honor to introduce you and bring to you somebody I consider a valuable professional contact and a friend, if I may say so, to you. So, Deb, take a moment and talk to the community about what brought you into where you are today, because it's not a place where people grow up saying, this is what I'm going to do, right? So you've shaped your own path. You've been a brave soul walking in there and creating the path for others to follow. What brought you here?
Well, again, thank you. It has been one of those journeys that certainly as a little child you never envisioned. I think I wanted to be an attorney, and somebody had told me that I should be that, right? Because I like to argue and talk a lot, and so I actually went into college as kind of a pre-law type of degree. I got partway through it and I thought, ugh, I don't want to do that. Now the law fascinates me, and it's very cool, but I really wasn't fascinated by that. And so I ended up going into my undergrad degree is one of those that, you use a lot. It's called, my degree is in social science. All right. What the heck do you do with a degree like that? But, I kind of, was working my way through several jobs. I loved it. I learned at every position, no matter what it was. I didn't see any position as, you know, uh, something that, that's beneath me. Every position I had, I learned from, and I loved it. I loved all the people I worked with. And then somebody finally said, is there a reason you don't want to do what you volunteer to do? Because I was volunteering to do marketing and communications for people. I was doing newsletters, I was doing all sorts of things. So that really did make me think, maybe that is what I want to do. It comes back to what you were saying with your Venn diagram. What do you love to do? And I loved doing that. I thought it was so much fun. So I started at the American Cancer Society, which was really pretty fortuitous, given many years later that I got a diagnosis of cancer. But it was fabulous. I mean, I knew that even with the mundane, the things that you have to do at your job every day, I still, and I was, my role was communications. And so I did all the PR work. I wrote the messaging. I did all sorts of things for the Rocky Mountain region. It was actually a 7-state region. And I knew what I was doing was making a difference in people's lives. I mean, we had people that would call us and say, I saw your story on, Channel 4. I realized I needed to go in for a checkup. And things like that. It was also very hard. I mean, it was when you're dealing with something like that, it was very difficult, but it truly made me understand that that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to help them through communications. And so help them get those messaging. And everything since then really has been part of that.
Beautiful. And it shows us the importance of listening
Hmm.
to yourself, right?
Right. And to others. I mean, when that
Yeah.
person said, "Is there a reason you don't want to do what you like?"
Yeah. Uh-huh. And that was a serendipitous question at the right time to come your way.
Hmm.
And so when you look back on what you're doing today and helping C-suite executives and working with them and helping them
Hmm.
with their communication, what are one or two things that you are seeing as a common thread that folks can focus for themselves as well?
I think, it's exactly what you've been saying. It is about building those relationships. We work with people, we've all heard it. We know, like, and trust. And we build it through actually connecting with people. And I don't care if you're connecting with, hey, that was a cute television commercial, or, their Facebook posts or their LinkedIn posts or anything like that. We connect with people, and we connect with what we think they're telling us about themselves. And businesses have personalities also, right? We know that. And so I think that's always very important for a business to be looking at what is their personality. Are they the type of business that is known for being very philanthropic? Are they a business that is known for, helping people out? Are they a business that's known for making money? And let's be honest, even nonprofits have to make money. They're not no profits. And so I don't think, I think making money is always a big part of that equation that's in there, but it is about building relationships and connecting with people in that one-on-one level. Even if you never ever actually meet them, maybe you're just reading what they write. It was through a book, through a Facebook post, or whatever. It is about making those connections with people.
And I'm glad you took the conversation there, Deb, because building that relationship and using that as the foundation for who we are and what we do
Mm-hmm.
requires us to show up authentically
Mm-hmm.
and be able to be trusted and be
Right.
trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the single largest hurdle, right? So I run into situations where people say, why should I sign a non-disclosure document?
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm going to steal from you? And I try to explain to them, this is how business is done. It's not just to protect me, it's to protect you. It's a mutual non-disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the starting point for building trust.
Right. Mm-hmm. It just kind of puts you on an even field.
Mhm.
I when I started this business, it was a handshake. You met with people, you said, "Hey, here's what we're going to do." We shook hands, we went on. And then you got confused.
Mhm.
Now what did we agree to? How much are you going to pay? All of those things. That's where contracts and NDAs and things like that. Just make sure that we're all aware of what's going on.
Mhm. And if we can't show up in a way that we are mutually inclusive
Mm-hmm.
and these agreements are win-win agreements where everybody benefits,
Mm-hmm.
then there is no framework for us to start.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we shouldn't. And that's of course the hard part for a small business owner, especially somebody who's starting out, is we
Mhm.
think, ugh, I don't, okay, but I'll do it anyway. Right? Because we want the money, we want the clients, we have bills to pay, we're starting a business. And I tell people, go with that gut instinct. If you're thinking, or the client, I mean, I like to think I'm absolutely fabulous, but I'm not everybody's cup of tea either.
Mhm.
So if it's not that win-win right at the very start, it's not going to be. You might be able to kind of fake it, but you might not be able to fake it till you make it.
Totally. And any business arrangement we go into, to me, the NDA and the contract is also part of the way we can go down our own way down the road. It's
Right.
almost it's not almost, it is a prenup for the two businesses.
Right.
And if we don't agree to that, and I have made the mistake of thinking that I could trust somebody and I cared about them and I will step outside of the norm and help. And I've been taken to the cleaners by them. And sometimes they're very young women who decided that they were going to use and then spit somebody else out.
Right.
And so through experience, we learn. And in business, we're not just protecting ourselves, we're protecting the business. We're protecting our stakeholders. We're protecting our other clients. And it's important for folks who are in business, who are engaging with not-for-profits, people who are in the world of commerce need to understand that this is how business is done.
Right. And it's just protecting everyone. It's very much like you said, it's a prenup. It's saying that for X number of dollars, I will do A, B, C, and I will expect my client to do C, D, E. And then if somebody says, well, but I like Y, then you can renegotiate, you can do all sorts of things, but there's not, it's one of the things, and I do a lot of websites, and one of the things we talk about is scope creep. Where, you agreed to do 5-page website, blah, blah, blah. And then they want 10 pages. Can you do this? And, sometimes you can without really changing things, but it's very easy for projects to grow, even through very well-intentioned people. So that's where, again, the contract, the NDA, all of those, because they're not written in stone. I mean, that's the other thing, is we can modify them. But it also, it does, as you were saying, it shows the way out. If both parties agree that we're going to terminate, it must be within 30 days or, all those various things.
Yeah.
We put our little legal hats on for those. But it does protect you. I mean, I designed some logos one time for a client. She picked one. She thought it was great. That was lovely. We went on with the project. A year later, she sends me an email and she says, oh, my husband is using one of those other logos that you designed. I thought you'd want to see what it looked like. And of course, I went, no, because she hadn't paid for that. And I mean, it was kind of, nice that they thought that other logo was great. But I went back and of course, he happened to be a copyright attorney. And he said, your contract didn't say I couldn't use that. And which he was right. He was exactly right on that. So the fee that I charged him for using that logo was he rewrote that section of my contract. The concepts that we present, you select one, the rest remain our property and are not to be used. Simple, easy peasy.
And I love you brought that example, because this happens every day, right? When I went to work for Warren Buffett on the Duracell acquisition, in my mind, in the United States, right, the bunny is Energizer logo. Right. Duracell doesn't have a figure. It's just the letters bunny. And wood, right? But when I'm in the office, I see everybody with a Duracell bunny, same pink bunny, except a younger version. So I chuckled and I said, there are so many animals and birds and creatures in the world. Did you have to pick the same one? And they laughed and they said, we know you think it's funny, but it's a sore subject. I said, what do you mean? The bunny was Duracell's. Internationally, it is still Duracell's. The patent expired only in the United States. And somebody forgot to file the renewal before it expired. And somebody at Energizer waited for a mistake. And in that 24-hour window, went and took it. So internationally, bunny is Duracell's. In the United States, Duracell cannot use the bunny. And the Energizer bunny is an old man. The Duracell bunny is a young bunny. And we have these in front of us every day, right?
And people, I mean, you hate to say it, people are going to take advantage. That's just the way, again, it's money.
Absolutely. So when you are working with the C-suite and you are guiding them through some of their challenges, what are they seeing in this era of pivoting? Pandemic is still not over, so we're still partly in the pandemic. We are in the middle of a war. and we have economic issues going on. So it's almost like a perfect tsunami, right? We have
Right.
diseases, we have war, we have economic troubles as a result of both of those.
Right. We need to
Supply
watch
chain.
out. The locusts are coming, I'm sure.
I know, I know. So what are some of the communication challenges folks are facing, and how are they being guided to overcome it?
I think in particular, so many C-suite folks and business owners, we get so focused on talking about our business, which we should be, right? We have to make money with our business, but we forget that we have that personal brand. And I think now more than ever, and maybe it's because we're not seeing people in person, we're not going to conventions, networking events, things like that. Those, and we may not. I mean, let's be honest, those things, though they're not going to come back, I don't think, to the degree that we had them before. And so we need to remember that we have a personal brand. It's what we were talking about before. People want to work with us. Not necessarily, yeah, it's great that we've got this company, we've got this product, this service, whatever, but we have to remember what our personal brand is. And what are we putting out there? What are we posting on Facebook? What are we putting on, all the various other platforms that I don't do because I'm like squirrel and I never get any work done? What is our brand? The thing I keep thinking about, especially, this week is, I put my PR hat on, is Will Smith. He has with, that whole incident was what, maybe 5 minutes at the very most. He may have completely damaged his reputation forever. Now he is doing, I think, everything he can to try to make that better. But we always have to be aware of how other people are going to perceive us. And, you talk a lot, obviously, about balance. I think the balance is that we as the business owner, we as the CEO, whatever the senior level management is, we are always on. And people are always looking for ways to praise us and ways to critique us. And anytime somebody thinks that they can say or do whatever and not have ramifications, positive and negative, they forget that every single person is holding a video camera in their hand. And so I think it's now more than ever, we have absolutely got to be transparent, and we need to remember what our authentic soul is, and because we're looking for things like that.
Mm-hmm. And so emotional intelligence goes to the heart of it, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that you never get angry. You don't show
We're
that
human.
you're offended or somebody else crossed the line, but it is always about knowing how to show it, when to show it, where to show it, and what degree to show it, because otherwise you will also come across as somebody who's going to roll over and play dead and people can do anything to you.
Right. Oh, yes, because that is so important, is we absolutely, especially as women, we have to stand up for ourselves.
Yes. And you and I know, having been one of the few women in our fields, and we've been in the field long enough, that there are going to be those men who speak louder and harsher just to shut us down. That doesn't make them right. What is your advice to women, young and older, on how to deal with men who are chauvinistic, men who are bullies, because we are going to run into them?
It's very hard, and I think trying to contain our emotions sometimes is a challenge. Somebody starts bullying you, and there are times, and we've probably all been there, done that, where we have wanted to cry. We have wanted to run away. Again, there's an appropriate time for that. I think anytime we're faced with something like that, the tricky thing is to not go back at them in the same tone, in the same manner. They say one of the best ways to de-escalate a fight is, if somebody's yelling, don't yell back. Bring your tone down. Because it's really hard to yell at somebody if they're still speaking in a nice, calm tone to you. Don't resort to the name calling. And, anything like that. I think, we as women, we have to be on our toes for it all the time. And I'll be honest, I've been stabbed in the back more times by women than by men.
Mhm.
And so we just always have to be watching for that. And so it means that we need to have, we need to know what we're talking about. It's okay to admit when you don't. You can say, I'm not familiar with that. Let me research it, or things like that. But I think it is, it's we need to kind of take those calming breaths, and sometimes it is leaving that situation,
Yes.
whether
Mhm.
it's in that moment or permanently. And I think we need to remember just how, there's one of the sayings that are going around now: you are enough. And we are enough. We don't need to be better than anybody. We just need to be ourselves. And sometimes it is, you know what, I'm just not going to be in this situation.
Mhm. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is always the best policy when it's escalating to a point
Mhm.
of no return.
Mhm.
One person has to stand up and say, you know
Right.
what? This is going no place constructive. Let's end this,
Right. And that's
whether it's going to be
hard,
permanent or
Mhm.
not.
Mhm. And that it but it's the delicate situation is that we have to make sure that we're not doing that in a way that allows us to be walked on,
Mhm.
or taken advantage of. So, that takes practice. It's very hard to be that strong person all the time. And, it's maybe you do go back later and have that discussion and say, this was not acceptable. And work through it that way or whatever. And sometimes that does come back to exactly what we were saying with the contracts, having some of those situations clearly spelled out in advance, because then it just kind of helps those things.
Absolutely. So I would love to open this conversation up to the audience so that they can jump in and share their thoughts, and we can continue to build this.
Wonderful.
So, Robin, Alicia, any thoughts, any questions you want to bring?
Hi,
I'll hop
Robin.
on. Hey, thanks so much. What a great conversation. I really love all of the nuggets and words of wisdom that you have. And I was really impressed when you said hey, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And just acknowledging that not everybody suits everyone. And some people will really be attracted to someone, and other people will be attracted to someone else. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. The people are just different. So I'm wondering, I actually kind of have two questions. One is, how do you go about determining when you're just not someone's cup of tea and you need to end that relationship, if you've had to do that, business relationship? And how are you able to determine that and then bring things to an end gracefully,
Mhm.
to not burn bridges, just to simply walk across the bridge and then keep going? And then the second, and I guess perhaps it's related, where you've shared stories, and also Dr. Cass too, on where people have taken advantage of you. And that there's a saying from scripture, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So how do you be wise in knowing that someone might take advantage of you, but yet be harmless as a dove, and that you're not taking advantage of someone else? So kind of how to balance that without becoming a cynic. It's easy to become cynical, I suppose. So, how would you navigate this? You're not someone's cup of tea, and then how do you navigate, being aware of what people might try to do, but not becoming a cynic and not doing it
Right.
yourself.
I think really a lot of it is gut instinct. I think we feel it when we are communicating with someone, where and I tell people, maybe you just don't click, right? It's, and I mean, there are times where we work with people who are not going to be our best buddies. Fine. That's perfectly fine. But I think we do kind of know, this is not quite going where we want. And maybe it's that you are the person who is always prepared and on time, and the person you're dealing with is not. They're more easygoing, they're more free flowing, and you're thinking, I'm just not sure this is going to work right. You mentioned not burning bridges. I think that's very important. This is a very small world. It really is incredible how interconnected we are now. But I think there are times where, you know what, we've probably all done it. We've burned that bridge. We've plowed it under. We have, and because, and I think that's especially important if it is a toxic relationship. You need to get out of that, and you don't want to be polite to those people. You don't, you just want to be done with it. And I think that's okay also. But you have to be clear in yourself as to what that was. And you have to learn from it. If it was that you kept thinking, okay, we're just having some communication problems. Why? Was it because I wasn't communicating in the way they needed? Was it that I was, not communicating clearly? And even simple things like, hey, they like a phone call and I like email. How do you work those situations out?
That's great. That's really great.
And I like the fact, thank you for that lovely question, Robin, because it goes to the heart of what we all deal with day in, day out. And Deb, I appreciate the fact that you said some relationships are so toxic that you do have to almost burn it to get the toxicity out, right? And while you're burning it, burn some sage along with it, right? And it becomes that when one of the parties actually, what they say, we see in this world what's in our heart. And when we go with an open mind and willing to give, and somebody is always looking for what can I get, we start feeling that, right? And when we start feeling that and we say no more, they do tend to get angry. They do tend to get very vicious. And at that time, if there is no way out, and if all they want to do is combative and raise their voices and be toxic, then it is important to really end that permanently.
Right. And it is hard, because I think especially as women, we are nurturing people. We want to please people, but we have to make sure that we're not getting stepped on in the process, whether it's professionally or personally. I think that's one of the things, I am, you mentioned in the intro, I am a stage 4 cancer survivor. And I've been through anything and everything in the last 5 years. I mean, 3 times the doctor said, she's not going to make it. And I remember thinking, excuse me? But a big part of my healing and staying healthy is eliminating those people and those things where it's not good for me. Even if it's something like television programs. There were shows that I watched before I got sick that now I'm like, no, that's going to put my head into, say, a dark place. And that's just not good for me. Now, some relationships you cannot completely end. There's obviously friends and family would be some of those things, but you can limit your exposure to them. And, we've all started, we've heard the analogy of, you get on the airplane and they're talking about the oxygen masks, and they tell you when the oxygen mask drops, you put yours on first, then you help someone else. And what that is saying is we absolutely, positively, no matter what, have to take care of ourselves first, even though it's our inclination to help someone else. We're not going to be at our best if we haven't taken care of ourselves.
And that's powerful. That is very powerful, because we need to be able to preserve ourselves to be able to give of ourselves. And when we are women, especially, I mean, I hear you, there are more women taking advantage of women than men, but the men who take advantage of women are truly, as they belong to a specific stereotype, right? Because they don't respect women, they don't value women, they look at women as somebody to be used. And they also then make those women feel like somehow they're less than.
Right.
But that is easier to spot. The difficult part to spot is the women you're helping and the women you're giving, and then you get stabbed on the back and you didn't see it coming.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, but
go ahead.
maybe it's that they take credit for your work, or things like that, and that's very difficult to deal with, and I think we probably all had that happen. And let's face it, I think sometimes we've done it ourselves. And I had a conversation with somebody the other day about teamwork, and how when someone tells me, hey, you've done a great job, I frequently deflect and say, it's all, it's because I've got a great team. And so I'm almost kind of at that opposite side where I'm not wanting to take any credit at all. And this person said, say thank you, acknowledge it, and then say, we've built a really great team. Because teams do take, they need a great leader or great participants. You might not be the leader of the group, but it is kind of, we need all of those pieces in order for everything to function well.
Absolutely. And bringing that gratitude in is so important. I appreciate you also bringing the cancer and the journey because of it. You and I have talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I have had to deal with my husband's cancer the last 5 years. And it truly makes us take a step back. I have been in organizations where the organization is so toxic and a particular department is so toxic. There was a time where all the women in that department had breast cancer.
Oh,
and none of them
you can't tell me that isn't partially mentally.
So there is enough science behind it. And I want Lisa to come and speak to it. We have a healthcare professional here.
Ah, wonderful.
Our bodies are never meant to be permanently in fight or flight mode.
Right.
And when we are in that fight or flight mode, the chemicals that are secreted in our body are disease causing. These are some of the reasons why we
have ulcers and all of those,
ulcers,
high blood
and
pressure,
cancer and blood pressure, and all of these are caused by it. And walking away from toxic situations and people who create that negative energy is actually very healthy. And gratitude is the one element that completely reverses that negative chemistry and gives you a positive dopamine environment where you are showing up with all of that positivity chemically and in every other sense. And so there is some truth, scientific truth, to the fact that walking away from toxicity is so important for your health, whether it's people, whether it's situations, whether it's TV shows, sometimes complete environments.
Right. Well, I mean, just think about our bodies when we're in that situation. We start, every muscle starts kind of clenching. Our blood pressure does go up. We can't think clearly. And part of that is, I think, fight and flight often combine. We do things to protect ourselves while we're fighting. But yeah, I mean, we cannot live like that, because it's just, and you see people who are like that, right? They're the constant worriers. They are the people who are looking for the bad in every single situation. And, I feel sorry for them, but I'm also like, okay, you're going over there. I'm going over here. You just,
Because we get to choose. We get to choose. And some societies have been so repressed in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
They take the approach, if I am not the predator, I'm going to be the prey. So I am going to be the predator.
Right.
And so that's a conscious choice as a society people make. And if the cycle is not broken, then it is never going to be a healthy place.
Right.
So Lisa, why don't you share your thoughts with your medical background in terms of the toxicity in the workplace and how that can help or hinder wellness overall?
Sure. I'm having trouble with the camera. I thought I could get switched over. Sorry about that. Well, I mean, you guys, that was very well said, and I've been enjoying listening to this. I think that as healthcare providers, we live in that toxic environment and are a big, we don't always practice what we preach in a lot of ways. And some of that is organizational setup, and some of what's like culturally tolerated within hospital systems. And to go back to the women, as in, it's a lot of times among nursing, especially, it's a female dominated profession. And there's a lot of the eating of the young that still happens. And I was going to ask what Dad thought about how do you deal with women that have power over you and are really not interested in being mentors or raising you up, and what are more, they feel threatened by you. But to finish with you guys said it really well, that the toxic environment affects every system in your body, from the neurotransmitters and the hormones, and it just is so damaging in the long run. And I've found personally too that I tend to be a kind of a perfectionist, and that also can, within myself, sometimes I create my own toxicity just because I'm trying to get everything perfect, and I'm always in that fight or flight, which also makes me good at my job because I'm noticing subtle changes, and I'm hyper vigilant, but it really wears on you after a while.
Right.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sorry, you guys added. I didn't have anything super great to add to that. You guys had kind of summed it up.
Well, first of all, thank you for being a caregiver. I think that's something that, long before I got sick, it is one of the absolute most important professions and the most underappreciated, and especially nurses. And because you're right, it's the nurses who notice those things. They notice, this person's just a little bit different today, or just little things. And so thank you so much for everything that you do for everyone.
Thank you.
You mentioned that the other, the more powerful women. I think a lot of times we can learn from them. And sometimes we learn what not to do, right? Wasn't there a TV program like that? Yeah, we do learn, I don't want to be like that. And so how can I be better? And I think sometimes, one of the things that Dr. Kaz mentioned earlier on was that word grace. I think we need to give them grace and realize maybe they're in situations where we have absolutely no idea what's going on with them. And so they might be that B word, and bossy might be one of those words that's a B word, but they might be that other B word, but we really don't know what's going on with them. And so kind of give them a little grace, but then again, distance ourselves.
That's true. Thank you.
And that's important, right? As women, we need to learn to honor ourselves and then other women. And when we come from that place of nurturing, I think things will fall into place. And the reason some women are not comfortable helping others, I think deep down, they themselves are insecure. Let's face it, we live in a world where the rules are made by men, and they allow one person of color and one woman to come through the ranks. And if I help another woman up, then I have to give my seat up. That is the scarcity mentality. Instead of thinking, you know what, if I groom the right woman to take my seat, I can go and do these other things I want to do. So part of it is if every person, man or woman, built their life in a way that they explore all their interests and live a full life, and they're not defined by the seat they occupy professionally, more than half the toxicity goes away. But when their entire identity is predicated on the seat they take, then it becomes a fight or flight every day to keep that seat.
Yep. And I think one of the things the pandemic showed us was, especially those first months, right, where we were locked down, and it, depended on where you were as to what the level was, but we figured out, I don't have this commute, I don't have all of this, what am I going to do with this free time? And one of the things that I saw was how many people got out and took walks. I mean, wasn't that fun to see that? And now the really weird thing was I live on this huge trail. It's actually 100 miles long, and they shut it down during the pandemic. There were signs. They were, and they patrolled it. Oh my gosh, it was, and so we had to walk around our neighborhoods. But I'm thinking, I think it's kind of the same thing. But I think the pandemic really did make us stop and think, is this job, is this career, is this company, this business, whether I'm an employee or the founder, is this really what I want to be doing with my life?
And that came at a good time. I think it came at a good time where we did need a check-in as a society.
Mm-hmm.
And I am actually grateful we got that time, because we've all been able to pursue what we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Because prior to that, the world was not open to the possibilities.
Mm-mm. Even just things like hybrid working and remote working, all of those various things. I think, I've worked from home for 20 years. So to me, this is nothing new. But for so many people, it's like, ooh, I really can get more done. And the people I feel most sorry for are those micromanagers, right? Who,
yes.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, their little heads just exploded.
Yes, because they can't see their people in their seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they don't know how to manage.
Right. They're no longer under their thumbs.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And Deb, you and I can talk for hours, as we already know.
I know. That's why we have to watch the clock.
I know. So I am watching the clock. And Robin and Elisa, thank you so much for showing up with your questions, showing up with your thoughts, and for what you do for this community, because we are building this community 1 hour at a time, and we are truly building ourselves along with it, right? Mm-hmm. So thank you for showing up. And Deb, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for joining and becoming a part of the community. And we have open doors for you to join any Saturday you want. Share your wisdom with us, and we can all grow together and we can all thrive together.
Well, this has been a delight, and I am so honored that you invited me.
Thank you so much, Deb. And as we bring this to a close, I want us to take away the importance of some of the information we have gleaned today, right? We need to be mindful not to be our own toxicity. Don't create our own toxic environment. At the same time, know how to balance and know how not to be taken advantage of without losing our soul in the process. Knowing when to say no, knowing when to walk away, and learn from all the negativity. Deb, you said it perfectly. We learn from people how not to be as well. So take the time, build those relationships, and transform lives, and in the process, transform yourself, because we each need to transform to be relevant every day for the next day ahead of us. Join us at Transform with Dr. Cass on YouTube channel and catch our episodes. Subscribe and be notified when the new episodes post. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you so much. And don't forget to unleash your inner Goldilocks.